Is for a slightly late start. Joys of technology, double factor authentication. I'll open with karakia. Kia tau mai te maramatanga, kia tau mai te rangimari e, kia tau mai te kaha me te aroha mō tēnei kaupapa hui e tai ki e. We have one apology from Councillor Shellcrest. Someone like to, other than that, I think everyone's present, either here or online. Moved Deputy Mayor Bryant, seconded Councillor Mackenzie. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Now we have a number of speakers in public forum, and so 3 of those are representing groups, and so therefore have 10 minutes, and 1 person individually, so 5 minutes. And I'll just work through them in the order that I have them on the on my run sheet. So first up, we have Hugh Gully on behalf of Pakawa community residents, then Lisa Alexander, then Keith Griffiths, and then Phoebe Quinlivan. So Hugh, over to you first. Yep, jump up here, push the little button in front of you, and hopefully you see a little red sign, which in this case means go, not stop. And I'll give you a nod at 9 minutes if you happen to still be. Yeah. No, I don't need a bell. I'll just kind of generally butt in. So welcome, Hugh. Over to you.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi nui. Tēnā koutou te whānau, te tai ōrere. Hey, so my name's Hugh Gully. I'm currently the president of the Pakawa Community Residents Association, and I've been in that position. This is my 2nd year. You can see on the screen, or potentially on your screens, a pretty dramatic photograph. And I took that photograph last week, knowing that I was coming in here today. But you can see that property is owned by long-time residents of Pakawa, and I'm down on the beach at Pakawa looking towards their property. And it's a pretty dramatic photograph, and I'd really, throughout the presentation and before I finish, want you to just sort of remember that. I'm going to talk about that photograph a bit later on, but yeah, not such a good situation. So we really appreciate a bit of time here today, so we'll just crack into things. Go to the next slide, please. So you'll be pleased to know there's only 8 slides, and you've already had one of them, so we're not going to hold you up too long. But we're going to outline, well, I'm going to outline our specific purpose for being here today. I'm going to give you a little bit of background, talk about the current situation, which really alludes to that first photograph, that the things on the beachfront at Pakawa are a wee bit grim. I'm going to give you some examples of how rock walls historically have worked extremely well, including the rock wall that's only just been built last year. Going to talk about cost. There's some pretty good news there, and going to go over some support that we really appreciate from mana whenua ki Mohua. Next slide, please. So our purpose today, and the reason that I'm here, is we're seeking consent to construct a rock wall at the next 3 properties on the Collingwood-Puponga Main Road. And the reason that we're wanting to construct a rock wall there is to protect the homes and to reinstate safe public access on the council reserve. So you may or may not be aware that there's a council reserve there that is falling into the water with the storm events that we are having, and we're wanting to reinstate a rock wall, or make a rock wall there, so that would protect the council reserve, but also protect the properties of the people who live there. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of background for you. In 2015, it was actually at the request of the Tasman District Council, when it became obvious on the shorefront at Pakawa that maybe there was a bit of trouble coming with coastal erosion, and there were dealings with the Tasman District Council 10 years ago. The council requested that we had a lawyer living there, a guy called Warwick Hill, and they said, look, how about you set up a group of people who we can deal with, rather than dealing with individual landowners. It'd be easier just to come through sort of one group of people. So that's why the community association was set up. And the first president of that association was a man called Laurie Jarrett. Laurie's only just retired from that role, and that's why I've taken over. So that was way back in 2015. In 2022, 2023, consent was given by the TDC to build the first rock wall on the 3 properties at those numbers there on the screen. That was a relatively straightforward process. The wall was built. after 19 months of negotiation and consent from TDC, it took Solly's Construction 3 days to build the wall. So when things are ready to go, Solly's don't mess about and they get on with it pretty quickly. We're in a new situation now with in 2024 when I've taken over from the association, 2024, 2025, and just finding that maybe the ground rules have changed just a little wee bit, and so that's kind of why we're here today. Next slide, please. So if you look at the photograph, again, that's only a few weeks old, and you can see the house with the red roof on the bottom left-hand side of it. And you can see how this is the first rock wall that's been built and how it terminates and just rounds off into the property, which is back a wee bit with the grey roof. So you can see with the red roof property, it's got the front lawn and then it's got the walkway. That walkway is on the council reserve, and then you've got the rock wall with some plantings on it. So that wall is only a year old, and it's pretty obvious when you go past the red house to the next property how much erosion has occurred. So definitely the rock wall kind of rounds in there a wee bit. The photograph on the front cover is the next property down. So you go red roofed house, then the grey roofed house, the next roofed house, you can see the bank where I took that first photograph, and that's where we've got quite major problems, and the next two houses along there as well. Now, we firmly believe, and we're not coastal scientists, we're just lay people, but obviously we've got coastal resource people working with us, that the perfect storm for us is where you get a big high tide. So you're talking a 4 metre tide, the king tides, which are due again. Now we've got summertime coming around. Obviously we don't get those over winter. So when we get our high tides, and then you get a strong easterly storm, as occurred on May the 1st this year, then we're in serious trouble. Now, we believe that in that May the 1st storm this year, that those properties lost round about 3 metres of property. It's absolutely devastating. And I went down there, as I say, last week for that first photograph that you saw. The sand is still falling onto the beach. So it is still eroding. It is a bit windy at Puckawa from time to time, if you've ever been there. It is still eroding. It doesn't stop. So our opinion is it's a very, very, very dire situation. The other thing I want to point out is that those sandhills are dangerous. They're dangerous for kids, and with summertime coming up, we are concerned about kids playing in those sandhills. Next slide, please. Left-hand side, you can see Totra Avenue. That rock wall was built in around about the 1960s. It is phenomenally successful. I've been down there. I live in behind that wall. I've been down there and the waves have been crashing over that wall into the properties, and it's standing up extremely well. Next to that, you've got the Puckawa campground, which again has been there. That one's been there since the 1970s, and it's holding up extremely well and is extremely resilient. On the far right-hand side, you've got the most recent rock wall that was built 2023, 2024. And you can see the little walkway, which is on the council esplanade. You can see the planting there. That rock wall is standing up extremely well. And it looks really cool. What it does is it gives people access to be able to walk from the council reserve. There's a section just back from there. They can walk along there. They can safely access the beach. And at the same time, quite obviously, it's providing protection for the homes. So there's 3 examples of how rock walls are working really, really well on exactly the same coastline. Next slide, please. Here's the good news, but you probably know this anyway. There is no cost to the Tasman District Council if you give us approval to build the rock wall, for the next 3 sections. The 3 landowners have agreed to do it. Okay, it is that simple. The landowners have agreed to do it. They will pay for it. Obviously, Solly's are lined up. They're ready to do the work, but if we get approval to do it. So there is no cost to the Tasman District Council. Next slide, please. We, after May the 1st, we approached Mana Whenua ki Mohua, and we're incredibly appreciative of the manaakitanga that we've got from Ngāti Rauruā, Ngāti Tama and Ngāti Awa to support us, and they wrote us a letter. Obviously, you can't read the detail in that letter, which is on the right-hand side. but it's pretty easy for you to read there that they support us in their application for homeowners consent, which will enable us at our own expense to build a rock wall. So that just summarises what Margie has said from Mana Whenua Wiki Mohua, and we're incredibly appreciative of that. So look, that's the last slide that I have, but I just want to remind you that we honestly feel we're in a dire situation there. We believe that we're one storm away from that one house in particular falling into the water. I'm not being emotive, I'm not exaggerating. I live there, I'm down there a lot and having a look at it. It continues to erode even without a storm event. It's not a good situation. To me, it's a no-brainer. It won't cost you anything. We're going to save the council reserve. We're going to provide a facility for our community with the walkway across the top. We're going to plant it out as agreed. To me, it's an absolute no-brainer. But yeah, so look, I do thank you for listening to me this morning. I really, really appreciate that. If you're seeking re-election the next month or so, best of luck with that. If you're not, well done on the time suited on TDC. Kia ora, and thank you for listening.
Cheers, thank you very much, Hugh, and well within your allocated time. So thank you very much for effectively putting across your points.
Cheers, Tim.
Next up, we have Lisa.
Hi,
welcome, Lisa. So same deal. 5 minutes, and I'll give you a nod at 4.5.
Thank you. I'm a property owner at Pakawa, and also a member of the Pakawa Community Residents Association. So I've been helping the team with the application and the processes for the rock wall. I've asked for this slide here to stay up because to me it's a really good one, and it shows part of the most recent wall, so we can see the fantastic walkway along the top, and the fact that it has reinstated and preserved access to the beach. Before that rock wall was installed in front of the previous 3 properties, those properties were in the same predicament as the house that Hugh showed on the front slide. So there was a very steep escarpment, unsafe, and at sort of dire risk of further erosion affecting those properties, and particularly the septic tank systems that are in front of them. This is a very old established coastal community at Pakawa, which is one of the wonderful aspects of it. Those houses were all built at a time when the Esplanade Reserve was put in place, partly for coastal erosion protection. That was one of the purposes of the reserve when it was put in place. Unfortunately, because these houses are so close to the front of the beach and the Esplanade boundary, there's no ability for us to wait for the reserve to completely wash away and then put in protection on the private properties. There's just not enough room in front of the houses for that. There's also no option to relocate or move those little houses because they're all between the beach and the road. So one of the key aspects of the request here is that it will preserve and reinstate the Esplanade Reserve, which has otherwise been lost. There's a well-documented history of erosion at Pakawa, and you can see that pretty readily from that photo. People who have been there for 20 years or more, as I and my family have, can talk about the sand dunes that used to be there, which have sadly all gone. Our engineer's advice is that the issue with Pakawa is most of the time it's a wonderful, calm environment, but when we have the strong easterly or southeasterly storms, that's when the large erosive events happen. So that's what pulls the sand away, causes the large erosive effects, and then we go back to the wonderful, calm environment, which just does not enable sand to come back up and replace. That's also part of the reason why some of the soft sand push-ups that have been done by the council previously, they sit there for a short period of time, but as soon as another storm event comes, they're just readily washed away, as have plantings that have attempted to preserve and reinstate the sand dunes. So just the nature of those strong storm events are such that the soft options just will not recreate those sand dunes that have been lost. As you noted, there's quite a safety issue as it is currently. It's the risk of further erosion or collapse of those banks is quite concerning. I do note in the report that's been provided to you by council staff, there's some notes about end effect. And I'd just like to stress our engineer's advice is that what you can see in that picture there is a linear, straight recession. So it's being caused by these strong storm events. So it's not that the wall has caused this, it's that this entire carving away would have happened to the entire beach if the rock wall was not there. So what you can see in this picture here is that the wall has done its job. If the wall was not there, that those properties would have all suffered the same erosive event. So his opinion is there is no end effect. This is just showing what happens without a rock wall in place. And as you can see, there's no evident scar there. It is a straight line. The design for the next proposed section of the wall will have a longer taper into the adjoining property, which is intended to address any minor end effects that are occurring. How much longer do I have? Am I? Okay. The other final point that I also wanted to note, which is referred to in the paper, is that some of the plantings may not have been undertaken as they were required to be in the last section of the wall. So we'd really like to work with council staff about that to assess and identify what is missing and what we can do there, and potentially if there's ability to make some slight amendments to the planting plan. The residents absolutely acknowledge the importance of native plantings, and that's a really critical point here, that the native plantings and the wonderful rocks we have there that are provided by Solly's are local rocks, literally from across the road. So it is creating a as local and natural environment as possible. So on the landscaping point, I'd just like to give commitment on behalf of PCRA that we will address that and work with council on that to ensure that it is completed. Any questions?
No, we don't really do questions. I'm not sure quite how much extra we need to clarify about this particular topic, given we've
I would just say that the prior 3 wall owners have signed very comprehensive license to occupy with the council, which contains an indemnity. So it indemnifies the council for any costs associated with that wall. Okay, and so that means if the council incurs any liability or costs as a consequence of the wall, then those 3 landowners agree to indemnify and basically pay the council the loss they suffer. That indemnity is then registered against the titles to those properties. So registered against the title. So it's there, sits on those parcels of land in perpetuity. So it is there as a registered interest on the titles.
Did I answer the question you didn't ask? that you didn't ask.
Yes, and the residents have offered up that registered security against the properties again.
Okay, thank you. So for the question that wasn't asked, that was an excellent answer. All right, thank you very much for taking the time to come over and submit to us today. Thank you very much. So next up we have Keith Griffiths.
Morning all. That's great, thank you, Tim. Everyone has the copy of the presentation that we have in front of you. First and foremost, thank you very much for your time. Feels a bit strange I feel like I'm starting to get to know all you guys, and things may change shortly. Yes. So best of luck for the change. I have been making my way around the community listening to those candidates that are standing for the next election. What comes up on a regular basis from most people, especially the mayoral candidates, is the word resilience, the need for resilience, the need for more housing, and the need to find ways to pay for infrastructure. We've obviously had a significant event. We know what happened. I'd like to know that we are pausing and taking account of the event that we went through as it relates to Plan Change 81. You all know that Seaview Heights, a significant development which supports, I think, the future and future-proofs Motueka, was not part of the future development strategy. It did not make the cut. I would like to think that we could pause and have a discussion around that. I understand that the council is hoping to put Plan Change 81 before the government in a very short space of time. My question is, and Tim, I would like these questions to be taken on notice, and if we could get responses, is Plan Change 81 being pushed through in haste without public consultation? What due diligence has been undertaken, especially as it relates to the west side of Motueka, which is delineated in the plan for further urban development? You'll see there a photo that I took when I had to stay at the Avalon Motel on the night of the 11th of July, not the 17th, the 11th of July, showing the flood. That was the start of it. I stayed there that night because I couldn't get back home. I've got a video, which I'm more than happy to share, which shows that whole area absolutely flooded. What is happening on the east side of Motueka appears to be at odds with what's happening on the west side. We talk about resilience, and there I have a photo in Old Wharf Road of TDC's approach to resilience. We build up moats on properties. We go to an extra expense to future-proof them. And is that our approach to dealing with infrastructure issues? You have a plan for the east side because you've already moved a proposed swimming pool from the east side due to issues and considerations around climate change. What are you doing about housing? I believe, or we believe, that Plan Change 81 fails to meet the national policy requirements and responsibilities of councils under the Local Government Act as it relates and regarding resilience, flood and coastal inundation. Plan Change 81 6.2.3.4 states urban development should avoid natural floodplains with moderate high flood erosion or instability. Motueka West, it is on a floodplain. Plan Change 81 is in direct conflict with the national policy and council's own planning principles. Shape Tasman plan states that they need to strengthen resilience and disaster preparedness. No resilience plan exists for Motueka West, despite proven flood risks. Are we going to follow the issues that Christchurch had to deal with, whereby the council ignored a piece of work which highlighted the liquefaction issues within Christchurch City itself? They then went on to let housing develop on liquefaction areas. There's the outcome. There seems to be a policy conflict. Why does Plan Change 81 fail to meet the national requirements and responsibility of councils under the Local Government Act as it relates to resilience and in particular earthquakes? Your own liquefaction map, it highlights liquefaction damage is possible in Motueka. those familiar, and I think all of you bar one has been to our site, it is on Mootry clay, and it is not under your liquefaction map subject to liquefaction. As you know, Motueka has a number of large landowners. Some of those landowners don't have fully rateable properties. Where is the money going to come from for further social services and amenities for the district if you can't fully rate? There is this question of freehold versus leasehold. Papakayanga development is eligible for rates remissions. How will essential services and infrastructure be funded if the rating base is going to be reduced? I don't have to tell you, but I will. Motueka is the most important economic area within the top of the south. Nelson is turning into a retirement village. We need to support the economic regions and build appropriately around those to support the community. When I worked at Maori Development Corporation in the 1990s as the treasurer, I worked with the likes of Warryward Homes, Sir Robert Mahuta, and Dame Georgina Tuhuhu from Tuwharetoa. At no time did they ever raise a need for a partnership agreement between councils and iwi. They were far more concerned with getting treaty settlements, appropriate treaty settlements, as they were due to them. This partnership agreement, I've sat and I've listened to the council meeting on the 22nd of November 2023, starting at 1:08 p.m. I would suggest that you might all like to revisit that. It raises really interesting questions. Principally, the practical application. Don't get us wrong. We support the need to engage, but the practical application of it makes it very difficult. It was designed to include the wider community. Instead, we feel it is actually excluding the wider community. Treaty obligations and councils, it says that treaty obligations, councils and iwis must engage in a manner that is fair, transparent and reasonable. We totally agree. But those same rights and obligations surely must be two-way in a partnership. Some of the current issues we're facing. We have gone out and contacted the 9 iwi.
You're at 9 minutes just for.
Okay, thank you. Early engagement is important. We went and did that. We got limited responses. It's at odds with the advice that TDC gave us about doing early engagement. We were told, don't come back until you have a resource consent. That to me is putting the cart before the horse. That to me, that we would be held hostage over any kind of development that we participated in. Renee Thomas says that this document does not hold us liable or accountable in any way. It is not a contract that binds us in any way to iwi. Surely, in a democracy, if that flows from a ratepayer's point of view, if the council's not bound, then why would ratepayers be bound? Quickly, food security, it's a major issue, comes up all the time. We have some of the best fertile alluvial soils across the country. You've all, bar one, been to see Seaview Heights. You can see the Mootry clay there. Compare that to the flats behind on the west side of Motueka. Why aren't we turning that into a market garden?
Thank you, Keith. Thank you for providing the written presentation. Appreciate you taking the time to come in and speak to it this morning. So thank you. And the specific questions that were asked will have been noted and you will receive a written
And in
reply.
the other parts of the presentation, I didn't happen to get to, but I will send it through to you in a soft copy form.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Right. Next up, we have Phoebe Quinlivan on behalf of Tapawera Connect. Welcome, Phoebe.
Good, thank you for having us today.
So same thing, 10 minutes. I'll give you a little prompt at 9.
Thank you. We won't be 10 minutes, I don't think, but Della and I just wanted to come today to thank you for your work around the Tapawera Community Hub. We are really pleased with the outcome of Site 3 being recommended for the location of the final hub, and we're very grateful to the team and to Martin for the thorough work they did on analysing and assessing those sites. It's a really good outcome for the community. The site that is chosen, Site 3, won't be subject to any flooding, inundation, and it's also really central in the community. It means that community members walking across to use the Foursquare and do things will have to walk past the hub, and well, hopefully that will be a nice prompt for engagement in the hub. So we're really stoked with that. We were also really pleased to hear the outcome from the current reserves management consultation that once again showed a 80%, I think it was, that Martin said, of support for the Tapawera Community Hub. So it was nice to have that reiterated, which has been consistent with all of the previous consultations we've done with community. Yeah, that was all I had to say. Thank you, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. So my name's Della Webby. I'm supporting Phoebe. So I work as a community connector for Tapawera Connect. I just want to add to what Phoebe said is also the Site 3 location backing onto the playground reserve. I think it's a really good opportunity to further develop that area, and we've just planted some community fruit trees there, and we have proposals that we want to present for a bit of an upgrade to the playground, so it will just all tie in nicely and make that a real central hub in the village. I also just wanted to mention, like I did the flood coordination work in Tapawera through both events that we've just had, and the current building was not fit for purpose at all. We tried 2 other sites in one of the floods, but they became inundated, so we resorted to having to use the current community centre. Over about 6 weeks, my health and well-being suffered significantly from working in there every day. It's not suitable. It was freezing cold. I had people coming in who were distressed, and I had nowhere private for them. It wasn't welcoming. I had the fire going, the heat pump, and I still had like my puffer jacket on, and I had my beanie on all day. Impossible to heat, and there's no hot water in the kitchen, no hot water in the bathroom. You know, people were staying over with the floods, and there was nowhere for them to have a shower. Just wanted to reiterate that for me, the importance of another building is high priority. The other hat I wear is the Community Hub fundraising coordinator. So in that role, the sooner we have a site confirmed, the sooner I can really get our team going and raise the extra money from the community contribution. So we have quite a passionate team that are there wanting to raise money. We have just over 510,000 raised of the 900,000, including the DIA contribution. And I'm confident that we won't meet that 900,000. I reckon we'll exceed it, so that we can have even more nice to haves in the building. So I just wanted to just reiterate to you as council that we're ready to go. We can't go out to the community asking for funding until we can say, yes, this is a site and it's all go and it's happening. But we're ready to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Phoebe. Thanks, Della, for coming in and supporting the report in today's agenda. Much appreciated. We'll now move on with the balance of the agenda. So declarations of interest. Are there any declarations? So I'll just note an interest in item 7.7. So for that item, Deputy Mayor Bryant will chair that part of the meeting. Move on to the confirmation of minutes. So first up, Tasman District Council, 31st of July.
Thank you.
Somebody willing to move? Councillor Mailing, is there a seconder? Councillor Kinnemont, all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. 14th of August. Mover. Moved Councillor Kinnemont, seconded Councillor Dakey. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. And the confidential minutes of the 31st of July. Moved Councillor Mailing, seconded Councillor Kinnemont. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. We'll move on to the first of the reports. So the first report, 7.1. Both of these reports, same team, so we'll take them obviously sequentially. First up at 7.1, then 7.2, Awaroa and Pakawo seawalls. Who is leading this discussion?
I'll kick it off.
Right. Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you've got both these reports. There's quite a bit of history to these. I've had some feedback from staff since putting these reports up, and one relating to the bond. We've got a recommendation in this report around the maintenance and the like, and our understanding is it's very difficult for the landowner to put a bond unless we know what the design is, and that will be obviously revealed during the resource consent. So we are expecting a condition in the resource consent that would set the bond and have a rationale behind that based on the design that is submitted. So other than that, I leave it open for questions.
Okay, thank you. So anything further? Tony, Richard, the second.
There's also been some sort of technical discussion around the level that the wall, or the line of the wall, and where it sits in relation to mean high water springs. And currently part of the wall at either end is above mean high water springs, and there's a part below mean high water springs in the middle. But of course that line is dynamic and moves, and you'll see in the Tonkin and Taylor report, particularly the dynamics of that whole estuary environment, and it's continually changing. And the other thing is below mean high water springs is, and the report talks about this, is the Able Tasman Foreshore Scenic Reserve, which is jointly administered by DOC and ourselves. And the agreement with DOC is that they would consider an application for a concession for the area that sits within the Foreshore Scenic Reserve, and give any consideration and required consent for that part of it. The other, so in the report it talks about the whole of the length of the wall, and that's largely because the wall and the associated works are actually restoring public access to and along the reserve, provide planting and public access, and also access for the residents across the reserve. So just try and make that clear.
Okay. So I'll open it up. I want to reiterate, this is not a debate about the merits or otherwise of walls or the resource consent conditions or consent at all. I take it from the point you made there, Richard, that any approval we provide can only provide approval for the land that we are responsible for. It cannot by de facto approve on the bit of land that is below mean high water springs, whichever bit that may be at the time that it's consented.
That's correct.
Yeah. So with those notes, and not wanting to send into a long-winded debate about the merits or otherwise of and the consent-related things that will undoubtedly be considered through that process, I will open it up for questions, comments, moving and seconding. Councillor Hill, and then Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Chair. It's been a saga, might be fair to say, and I think it's good that we're getting to some resolution and this step in that process. I'm happy to move the resolutions as they are. Yeah, there's a lot that could be said, but I think I appreciate the mediation and negotiations that have gone on for quite some time, and that we're at a stage where this crucial bit in terms of the process can be hopefully agreed to here today.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. Tony, can you just flick that microphone? Cheers, thank you. Councillor Butler and Councillor Murray.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to second. I've just got one question about the reinstatement of the walkway, and I'm just wondering how much consideration has been given to the use of that, because once it's put back in place, I mean, there's a lot of traffic going through the Able Tasman track and up to the Dock Hut, and I know they're meant to go further up the hill, but they often come through that way. That's the first thing. And secondly, whether or not quad bikes will be allowed on there. There's a lot of quad bike activity out there. So I'm just really asking that whether or not we have thought about how that walkway is going to be managed.
Richard. The walkway really, as well as providing access for people traversing through the park, and some of that occurs at low tide and around that turn of the tide when, as the estuary disappears, some of it is incidental access along the foreshore, but there's also those a number of those properties also have their access across the reserve from the foreshore area. And that necessitates some of it's at low tide where they come across in the quads and things, as you say, across the estuary and bringing supplies and things across, and then up a walk up one of those access points into across the reserve and into their properties. So in terms of control of that, it's pretty difficult because it's such a remote location in practice. I guess it could be part of the discussions with particularly the landowners, because I think that's where it's most relevant in terms of the quad access, about how that's done and timing of it and that sort of thing. But it's as I say, it's very hard to enforce.
Yeah, so I just think that it will be important to just kind of front foot that situation, because there may be a change in use, and the use may increase, which you know, people may not expect. So yeah, happy to second.
Okay, Councillor Murray has indicated he doesn't wish to add more, so I'll come to Rob. Do you have something to contribute to this conversation? So it's been moved and seconded. So move Councillor Hill, seconded Councillor Butler, so we're all clear.
Kia ora, through the Mayor. At the risk of getting the ire of most of Council, and from a procedural point of view, from my point of view, I would like this report to lie, if that's possible, and come back to the next Council meeting, because it hasn't fully addressed all of the issues. The bond is a landowner issue. It's not a resource consent issue. Resource consent can't put an obligation on a third party. So the landowner needs to sort that bond. We also have an issue where there's a difference in opinion between what the consultants have supplied and what our staff have. So nearly all of the wall is in the mean high water springs, and there's not a sand resource to change that situation that's consentable at the moment. The sand is not in front of the wall, it is somewhere else. So we have a significant issue here where, as landowners, and it's entirely your decision as council, you would be approving something that is not actually mostly on your land. It's in the mean high water, below mean high water springs. So that's actually dockland. And you only have two bits at the ends of this wall. So there's a bit of an issue here that I think is significant and opens an opportunity for challenge in the future, firstly around the bond and secondly around the information that's been provided.
Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure why we would be presented in this situation here now, very late in the piece, and why, if this is the case, I don't know if what you're presenting, I don't doubt, I don't doubt you, but I wonder whether is there another view around Mean High Water Springs. And so anyway, I think what we need as councillors, certainly what I need to be presented with here is something concrete around these matters, and to be presented with a report and then have at a last minute something else coming forward. Unless I've misunderstood here, I'm starting to feel quite uncomfortable.
Rob.
And I fully appreciate that this is a completely inappropriate process. This is something that should have been sorted before it arrived at the table. I think it's still appropriate for you to be considering the issue. I'm just signalling I don't think it's an appropriate time to be providing a resolution to this report today. It can be easily sorted and brought back to the next immediate meeting.
What would be the implications? Do we know specifically you've outlined maybe generally what would be the specific potentially unintended consequences of us passing this resolution now? I need to know the risks.
So can I just clarify what is likely to change between now and next week? In terms of the recommendation, are you anticipating we take another week and get the same recommendation with more clarity over the location? Or are you indicating that there's going to be a different recommendation?
I would be suggesting that the bond issue, which is a landowner requirement per the policy, would be sorted, and that the report will accurately clarify what bit you are actually providing permission for.
So I'm clear what we're providing permission for, which is any of the wall that happens to be on the land that we have the ability to provide permission for. And I thought it was clarified quite clearly in answer to the question that any area that is below Mean High Water Springs that falls in the Able Tasman foreshore is a council Department of Conservation conversation, which would need to be had. But we end up in this chicken and egg situation all the time. Someone at some point has to make a decision. So my question is, what is likely to change in terms of the report? So acknowledging the bond issue, in terms of the balance of what we're discussing today, what is likely to change?
I would suggest clarity around the nature of that wall. That wall there's only two very little bits that are actually on council land. So I think that needs clarifying before the council makes a decision about a wall that you might inherit and becomes a liability for us.
Richard.
Could I comment, Steve? In relation to the bond, that's considered in the policy, and it talks about providing a bond or other security arrangement to cover such damage and claims. The application form, applicants have said that the adjacent property owners are aware council require indemnification of council against claims, and they appreciate the council will seek agreement with the applicants around a bond or security to council assurance that the landowners have financial capacity to fulfill their obligations. So they're aware of and have acknowledged the bond requirement. The other part, in terms of the area below Mean High Water Springs, this situation is a bit different in that we have the Able Tasman Foreshore Scenic Reserve, which council jointly administers with the Department of Conservation. So even though they're processing that part of the application, so I think it's covered both cases.
Okay, so in terms of your perspective, the fact that we jointly administer that bit of land below Mean High Water Springs, unlike other areas where there is a delineation and we are one and they are the other, in effect, are you suggesting that we're providing our approval as part administrator of that, and then it relies on the Department of Conservation to confirm their approval.
Yes, because this full length of wall is necessary to provide the continuous access along the reserve to give, which is part of what is one of the key factors of a local purpose Esplanade Reserve. I should also say that Kim Drummond, or Mr. Drummond, is the council's nominated person on the
Joint foreshore.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Hill.
So just as a clarification, our giving landowner approval today doesn't get in the way of working out whatever would need to happen around the bond in terms of policy.
No, that you'll see there there's two in B and C in the recommendations. There's one there about the joint and several licence to occupy for the seawall, and the other is in C. It talks about entering into an agreement with the council, and one of those things is any liability relating to the seawall. And in my mind, that would cover a bond or other security as proposed in the policy, or covered in the policy.
Okay. Councillor Mackenzie.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm just wondering whether we need to come back to it and maybe give the staff time to work out between them, because I feel that we're being left here maybe in a situation where there hasn't been enough time for the staff to get into agreement. So
5 years.
Oh, well, I mean, this is what we're faced with. So could we just maybe give them an hour or two to work it out? Not defer it, but.
Leonie.
Obviously, this isn't ideal. What we need to clarify is what is actually the piece that it actually is council reserve or council land, and what is below mean high water, which would be not our land. So we're not approving that piece. And I think the report isn't clear. I think when it was first written, it felt it was, but actually now a lot more eyes have been across it. We feel that you want to know exactly what bits you are approving, and it's not very clear on the report. And I take what Richard's saying, that the mean high water does moves, but we do have to at some point put a line in the sand, not to be cute. And I think that's our concern. We actually have to be very clear on what bit of the land we're improving. So I think your suggestion, Councillor Mackenzie, might be appropriate.
So does this apply equally to the next item, or just to Awaroa?
In my mind, it's just Awaroa, because you've got a unique situation at Awaroa where you've got the Able Tasman Foreshore Scenic Reserve. Normally our jurisdiction would, or our boundary would be at Mean High Water Springs, but it's complicated in this case. And I guess in terms of what we're approving, it depends on what day we're approving it, and it's going to apply in the resource consent in my mind as well, in terms of where is the Mean High Water Springs, and so some agreement's going to have to be reached about what the datum's going to be used for those for that process. So as I say, I've tried to make it more encompassing in this one to cover us both ways.
Right, I'm going to take Councillor Mackenzie's suggestion. We're going to break for half an hour, and I expect when we come back to have some clarity over the staff's position in relation to these matters, and I would expect that we get to make a decision today. This has been, as many people point out, years and years in the conversation. We've been through a whole policy conversation about bonds and a whole lot of other things. So I don't expect to have to kick this can down the road for another matter of weeks. So we'll break for half an hour. No, we'll break for quarter of an hour. You can have as much time, you can have half an hour to come back. And in the meantime, we will take item 7.7, which Councillor Bryant will chair, So we're breaking for 15 minutes. We'll be back at 1:45, and I expect this item to be back in front of us by 11 o'clock.
If I could have your attention, please, councillors, we'll get back underway. So we'll move to item 7.7, Eves Valley landfill, where the Mayor has declared an interest. Kevin, you're presenting.
Thank you. I'll take
welcome.
the report as read. Any questions?
So you're happy to, do you want to elaborate any or?
Sure, I'm happy to do a little rundown. So basically, there's a joint committee between Nelson District Council and Tasman District Council, sorry, Nelson City, that run a landfill at Eves Valley. The business unit that runs it have asked to do a road stopping because there is a piece of unformed legal road that protrudes into the property and then just terminates. By doing a road stopping, that would allow the business unit to utilise the full site for future works. So we're just seeking council's approval to stop the road under the Public Works Act.
And pretty much that road goes to nowhere. It's unlikely to ever be used for any access.
Correct. There's no adjoining, no other roads connecting to it.
Councillor Moling.
Look, I'm happy to move.
We have a seconder, Councillor Dale. Councillor Moling, do you want to speak to it? I've got eyes on that side. Did you have your hand up? Anyone else would like to speak to it? If not, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour will say aye. Against, resolution is carried. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Great. So I think we'll now move to the freedom camping, which, Kelsey, I might have to get you to come around and help. Yeah. Alcohol in public places, yeah. Oh.
What did you say?
I'll get my own, it's easier.
Which one, Dave?
I'll get it up on the screen, but the cat's here anyway, we'll get underway. Yeah. I'll do like the mayor, just work from the run sheet. 86 councillors. So welcome, Pat and the team.
Kia ora. So the purpose of the report is to consider a recommendation from the Control of Alcohol in Public Places Bylaw Hearing and Deliberations panel, following the deliberations that happened on the 28th of August. So this bylaw sets out the alcohol ban areas and their times of application throughout the district, and it's entirely enforced by the police. Both the current and prior police staff have emphasised that while the bylaw is one of the most useful pieces of legislation they have in terms of preventing crime, it's also one that they apply with discretion. For example, wedding toasts, quiet picnics involving a limited amount of alcohol being consumed responsibly is highly unlikely to attract the attention of police or warrant any active enforcement. They also have other tools that they'll use, like just telling people to jog on, tipping out vessels that are being consumed in public and things like that. To meet the requirements that are set out in section 147A of the Local Government Act, the council must be satisfied that for each of the proposed public places contained in the bylaw, that there is evidence that a high level of crime or disorder would be likely to arise or return if the alcohol bylaw was not made. An analysis of police data over the last 5 years has been done, along with police observations and feedback from the community, and this supports the bylaw going ahead as proposed. The Hearing and Deliberations panel was satisfied that these requirements were met, and they are recommending that the council makes the bylaw. I am happy to take the remainder of the report as read and answer any other questions that you may have.
Thank you. We'll come across to Councillor Hill first.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to move the resolution. I'd like to acknowledge those that worked on this. Very good process in terms of what was presented to us from staff. Thank you, Kat and others, and acknowledge the panel members that assisted, and I think it's we've refined things a bit more in some places. Certainly at home in Golden Bay, I think it's been a important thing to do. We had a bit of a broad brush through some of those areas, prohibiting. Yeah, so I think it's a good process, and while there were a few submissions, I think it sort of that there weren't a whole bunch, sort of indicates that we probably had things about right. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Maru.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to second. So again, it was one of the more straightforward hearings that we've had in this term. So thank you for the work, Kat, and thank you for the work behind it, Dee, and your team. So happy to second.
Any other speakers? Councillor Dowler.
Yeah, I have an issue with some of it. I look at Sports Park Motueka and I look at Memorial Park, and they both have sports changing sheds there, and the guys take a few beers in to have after the game. So is this bylaw designed to stop that from happening? Or is it, well, it's in a public place. So I just sort of get a bit concerned when I see it black and white like that.
Through the chair, that was they did have the opportunity to make a submission if they were concerned about that particular area. However, as the police have raised with us during the workshops and the previous iterations of the bylaws, that they will enforce it with discretion. It's generally something that they can use to move people along if it looks like there's going to be a problem. So there's quite a common sense approach is used.
Thank you. Any other questions? Did we have a seconder to the resolution? Oh, Councillor Murray, thank you. Just a question from myself, Kat, similar to Councillor Dowler. Generally in Lakes, Murchison Ward, pretty much the areas stayed the same, Wakefield, Tapua and Murchison, with police approval. As in the alcohol areas?
Sorry, we're asking if they've stayed the same. Yes, they have all stayed the same, apart from Tapawera, which was the alcohol ban area was reduced slightly, and that was to reflect that there wasn't high levels of crime and disorder occurring in that area. There were some observations from the local police that there had been some issues in particular areas, so we've retained some of it, but it's not that same broad brush that Councillor Hill was referring to. It's been refined a little more and a bit more targeted now.
Right, and some of that is possibly because the local alcohol establishment is currently not operating, so it's probably quite appropriate. So with that, if there's any further questions or discussion, I'll put the resolutions, which are on the screen. All those in favour will say aye. Against? Carried. We'll now move on to the responsible camp. Thank you, team. Thanks for all the work you've done doing that. And Chair, Councillor Butler, were you wanting to speak?
No, just in relation to the next item, I'll declare an interest, so okay. I won't be involved.
Is that the responsible camping? Yep. Okay, thank you. Page 121, Amy. Councillor Amy, I'm pretty sure you know where it is. Yeah. Responsible camping.
Oh, yeah, I'm like, well, go away. Yes. Responsible camping. Splendid. Hello. Well, hopefully not. I don't want it to look as though every time I get back in the seat, things slow down. But thank you for speeding through the things while I was gone. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Morena, tēnā tātou. This report presents the recommendations of the Responsible Camping Bylaw Hearings and Deliberations Panel. The new Responsible Camping Bylaw updates how we manage responsible camping to reflect recent changes to the law and improve the experience for local communities and visitors. The bylaw sets out where and how freedom camping can happen across the district, as well as enabling us to enforce these rules. It seeks to protect local areas, the health and safety of visitors, and access to public areas from negative impacts caused by freedom camping. Consultation for the draft bylaw ran from 6th of June to 14th of July, and we received 58 submissions, 36 location-based comments on Shack Tasman, and 116 votes for the poll regarding weekend camping at Dix Reserve. There were no late submissions. There was general support for regulating freedom camping through a bylaw, particularly to specify where vehicles can and cannot park overnight to protect local amenities, public health and safety, wildlife, and the environment. Many submitters made comments or suggestions on specific provisions or sites or areas. Other key themes we heard were requests for increased monitoring and enforcement, improved signage and communication, the importance of providing sufficient facilities, and the impact of freedom camping on commercial accommodation providers. Some submitters considered the bylaw too lenient and requested further restrictions or prohibitions, while other submitters wanted less regulation of freedom camping. 5 submitters presented at the hearing held on 28th of August, followed by the deliberations, and the panel made several changes to the bylaw in response to feedback from the community. Before making a bylaw, the Freedom Camping Act 2011 requires the council to be satisfied it is necessary in relation to each local authority area proposed for prohibition or restriction of freedom camping for one or more of the following purposes: to protect the area, to protect the health and safety of people who may visit the area, and to protect access to the area. Attachment 2 to the agenda report provides updated assessments for all sites against these criteria, further informed by the consultation feedback. The Freedom Camping Act also requires the council to determine whether a bylaw made under the Act is the most appropriate way of addressing a perceived problem, whether the proposed bylaw is the most appropriate form of bylaw, and if there are any Bill of Rights Act implications. The panel was confident that the bylaw is the most appropriate form and is the best tool available to council to manage the perceived problems identified with freedom camping. The bylaw may give rise to some implications under the Bill of Rights Act, but it is not inconsistent with the Act. As set out in Section 9 of the deliberations report, the imposition of the prohibitions and restrictions on freedom camping are considered fair and reasonably justified to address the identified problems relating to freedom camping in Tasman District. I'd like to thank the hearing and deliberations panel. There was a lot of information to review and understand, and their engagement in the process is appreciated. The panel's recommendations to you today include approving the revocation of the 2017 Freedom Camping Bylaw and making the new TDC Responsible Camping Bylaw 2025 to have effect from 1 November 2025. Shannon and I are happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction and the overview and the background. And again, I'll reiterate your comments around the hearing panel and those who went through the hearing process, reviewing the information and responsible for putting the recommendations to us today. So thank you for everyone who was involved in that. So I'll now open it up for questions, comments, moving and or seconding. Councillor Hill, Councillor Walker.
I'm happy to move the resolution. This is one of those areas where, there are some people who think we should all be able to camp where we like, when we like. And I always think about that Kiwi ethos of throw the tent in the back of the car. And back then it was a canvas tent, wasn't it, with rat holes eaten in it. And you'd get it out once a year and head off down the coast or something and pull over somewhere in camp. And there are many Kiwis who still feel like that's something we should better do. But of course, our inundation of little vans that sort of eventuated, we had hundreds of thousands of them in the country. So there's been these different phases and stages, I think, through the life of this kaupapa in our country. And I think that we're getting more refined as we go along. And although I support where we've landed, and I've certainly appreciated those on the panel with me, their contributions to this, and obviously all of the submitters, I think there's it's still an odd thing in a way that we invite people to come and stay for nothing in the country. And so I'm imagining that as time goes on, there'll be another refinement further down the track and we might end up somewhere a little different in the future. But we are where we are now, and I think we've made some good compromises and some good protections in some areas as well. And I'm happy to Move the resolution as it stands.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Hill. It's been moved. Is there a second before? Okay, so Councillor Walker's seconded and
yeah, thank you through you, Mayor. Thank you for all those people who did put submissions in. Interesting because some of the feedback obviously is around increasing monitoring and enforcement, but I note we don't have a bucket of money beyond what we already had, so I doubt this bylaw is actually going to make that a lot of difference for those people who are quite concerned about what we're doing with our monitoring and enforcement. The other clear steer we got was around facilities and how there's a widespread of our community that are requiring or requesting of us to put more facilities in. And again, no bucket of money to help with that. There is one other thing that I was a little bit concerned when I read the minutes from our hearing, was that I had asked on behalf of one of the submitters around when the last bylaw expired until when this one takes effect, which is my understanding, the 1st of November. So we've been doing infringements. And I just wanted to clearly understand the fines that we'd been putting out, the infringements that were out there. Was it legal and how were we doing? What was that operating under? And we got a clear question given to us by a submitter. I asked, and I'm still waiting for that feedback, and I'm quite keen to get that. And I note that the question wasn't put in on our minutes from that hearing. Is there a reason for that, please?
Through the chair, I'm not sure why that wasn't included in the minutes, but I can speak to the question. So the infringement notices that are issued are under a specific section of the Freedom Camping Act. That Act enables us to issue infringements beyond the rules of the bylaw. So the national legislation has rules prohibiting freedom camping in a non-self-contained vehicle anywhere in the district. There's also clauses relating to unwarranted vehicles, littering, those kind of ideas. So we are confident that the notices that were issued were legitimate under that section of the legislation. And we've checked.
thank you. Cool, thank you. All good. So is that cool? Happy with that answer? Yep. Cool. Councillor Murray, Councillor Dakey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one question now that's come up, and then the other question. So, in terms of the clause that I'm just scrambling to see, because I think it said about taking away the 2017 bylaw. Are we still taking away, or has it expired? So now I'm uncertain of the answer.
Through the Mayor, so we are fairly confident that it has been revoked. The process for the last review, the resolutions were not super specific. So to tidy it all up, the advice we've been given is to formally revoke it.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. So now, if I can, firstly, can I also thank the panel that I wasn't a panel member of? So I give my respect to the diligence across the consultation and hearing the hearings. But if I go to map 2.2, which is on page 157, some of the feedback that's been in the community is about the impact of freedom camping on Dix Reserve to the playground at Dix Reserve. So one of my questions was, did the panel turn their mind? And I'm surprised to see there's still some permitted parks for freedom camping right adjoining the Dix Reserve boundary when they could have gone further back into the car park. And I just don't know if there was a discussion. It's probably too late to change. But where there has been some considerable movement back, there's still half a line of cars indicated the park there. I'm just wondering why they weren't pushed back further into the car park. So that's one question. Don't know if you can answer.
Amy?
The panel did not make any changes to the parking in that map.
Okay. Is this the existing map that was previously?
No, so this is a reduction from the previous bylaw from 60 to 40 available parks at Dix Reserve.
And I know nobody likes doing things on the fly. Is there any opportunity or any support at the table to move those ones adjacent to the playground back into the car park further? And is there any danger in doing that? And if there's no support, we'll go with it. But it just seems it was one of the key things.
Through the chair, I believe the council could resolve to make an amendment to that map. So retaining the number of parks and moving the parks adjoining the playground back towards the other block of car parks in yellow.
Is there any chance of bringing up page 157 on the screen?
I imagine there could be.
And then I could just explain the reasoning. So, and sorry, I only read this last night, otherwise I would have emailed through. So some of the commentary around freedom camping on Deeks Reserve is activities that are seen from vans and activities that take place in vans camping in there that are by our brand new, well-utilised playground. So by reducing parks, great. By moving the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 10 parks back into the car park
to the other end, effectively.
Yes, just on the other side to the left. So
yeah.
Seems a minor change, but seems a really good way of keeping that area clear and a buffer zone for the playground.
Yep, I'm getting general nods of support. So if you'd like to, so can the wording, someone just needs to get the wording correct so that we amend. So the numbers stay the same, but the parks that are currently adjacent to effectively to Deeks Reserve and the playground. So are you suggesting they transfer straight down the line towards the library or go over between the two, whatever type of yellow trees they are?
Actually, extend the library that one band would make sense. One set of painting lines, 2, 4, 6, 8. That's why you're the mayor, Mr. Mayor. There just happen to be 10 spare parks at the end of that.
Of the end of the same block that contain the. Yep. Okay. Everyone clear?
Yes, so to confirm, you wish to move the 10 parks adjoining the playground to back to the yellow block in the middle, filling up the 10 parks at the end of that.
Correct. Thank you. Yep. So can everyone see that on their agenda? So currently there are 2 blocks of parks. One's got whatever is 20 or 30, whatever it is that adds up the number. And there happens to be 10 spare blocks at the end of that rectangular shape. The 10 that are currently in a single line again adjacent to Deeks Reserve would shift into those 10 spaces. I'm happy to, so Councillor Walker seconded, if the mover and second are happy just to amend the resolution to contain that change, that will save us going through the rigmarole of a amendment.
I'm happy to do that if Waterwicka councillors are, if that's what they'd like to see happen, and we're sure there's not anything just out of the image there that's all good.
You happy? All right, cool. Thank you. So resolution changed to reflect that conversation. Councillor Dakey.
Councillor Murray took my thunder there. I was going to support that. And it just reflects what the community said. Getting it away from the playground makes sense. Great idea.
No, I think it is a pragmatic alteration. Councillor Greening.
Yeah, just 2 matters, really just a follow-up from the earlier discussion. I think staff acknowledged that maybe the minutes should have included the item that Councillor Walker was referring to. Does that mean the resolution should also be amended in relation to the minutes, that it states as amended, so that they have the ability to add that comment in? I just wonder if the mover and seconder wanted that added. I didn't hear any discussion on that. And then secondly, just in relation to that discussion, I'm just trying to get my head around what you said there. So are you acknowledging that the bylaw was revoked by the Act in December 24, but that the Act then enabled the revoked bylaw to continue until we put in place another one? Can you just walk me through the logic there?
Chair, thank you for the question. So we do believe the bylaw revoked due to not reviewing it within the 2-year period. We believe that happened in December, so the bylaw was no longer in effect from December. We can still issue infringement notices regardless of whether a bylaw is in effect or not. So we believe the bylaw was not in effect. To formally tidy that up, we're revoking it today.
So if it's revoked, how do we know where to issue tickets given that the freedom camping area identifies areas and we've just revoked it?
The tickets are issued under the Freedom Camping Act, which applies to the entire district. So those rules apply regardless of whether a bylaw exists or not. And so the entire district, there is the default position in the legislation is that there is no freedom camping in a non-self-contained vehicle anywhere in the district.
That's interesting because I thought the Act kind of prohibited district-wide freedom camping bylaws.
It does. We can't do a blanket ban on self-contained vehicles across the district, which is why we provide places for that to occur. It's the non-self-contained vehicles that are prohibited nationwide unless a bylaw provides a specific location for that.
Okay, and that, and that provision that you're saying is based, what provision is that in the Act, just out of interest?
The section that applies that you referred to it previously in the answer to Councillor Walker.
Section of the Act. I just need to double check that. I haven't got that in front of me.
Yeah, I didn't think that was provided.
Right.
Thank you.
So Kelsey has got the minutes up and she has amended.
No, they were in
there. Oh, so that was already in the minutes. So sorry. So that is the minutes, and it says discussion was held around blah 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 blah. So everyone clear with what the minutes said, which reflects what Amy just said, which in part is an answer to both Councillor Walker and Councillor Granning's questions. Right. If there's nothing further, do we have, in terms of specific section of the Act that
Shannon, so through is the specific section of the Act, is that in relation to where the infringements are being issued or in relation to where the prohibition is declared for non-self-contained vehicles?
Where the prohibition is declared nationwide for non-self-contained vehicles, under which we issued the fines in the absence of a bylaw.
So through it's section 5, the meaning of freedom camping.
Thank you. Right, so it's been moved and seconded as altered in relation to the 10 car parks and decks reserve. I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Right, we will now go back to the items in relation to sea walls. We will still take the two resolutions in relation to Awaroa and Pakawao separately, but the conversation that we're about to have may well extend across both. So thank you for council staff taking the opportunity to hopefully provide some clarity. And I will come back to somebody. Oh, now everyone's looking around to the lawyer. Oh, that's always a good sign. So, Lee. So the wording as altered via agreement with the various parties providing the recommendation and the information is now on the board, and who is going to explain the changes? Leith, over to you.
Through the chair. So the nature of the changes proposed by staff, making it really clear that you are giving landowner approval for only the pieces of wall that fall above mean high water springs, which as I understand it are two small pieces at the end of the current wall, and adding resolution 2D, making it clear that your landowner approval is also conditional on them entering into agreement with council to provide a bond. And if you scroll down a little bit further, noting that they will also need approval from council and DOC acting as the administrative body for Able Tasman foreshore and seabed, and noting that this landowner approval is not written approval in the context of the RMA. Otherwise, staff are on board with these changes.
Okay, righto. So I think that is reasonably straightforward and does provide some clarity. So I will now come back firstly to those who moved and seconded for any further questions that they have, and then obviously for the balance of the conversation. Councillor Hill, Councillor Butler, then Councillor Mauro and Councillor Greening.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the adjustments. Does this mean for the portion that is a TDC combined management area that there's another matter that will come back to us again for approval for that part at another time?
Through the chair, my understanding is no, that administrating body, which is mainly led by DOC, will make that decision. So pretty much.
So they have the authority within their...
DOC will process that part of it as a concession application.
Okay.
Can I take it? So sorry to butt in and clarify, but can I take it that given we have a representative as a 50% decision maker, that the council's approval for this process would indicate that our representative on that conversation would have a positive view towards the approval, or is it like an entirely independent decision-making process that takes no direction whatsoever from the council?
So just an answer to that question, it's the Department of Conservation entirely that have the responsibility for granting the concessions. The council's role is in the joint management plan.
Okay, that does clarify that. So thank you very much. Right. Anything further, Councillor Hill?
No, but I'm happy with the changes as the mover.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm happy with the changes. I do just have a question though about maybe it's a legal question about mean high water springs, and you know, we can note in the Tonkin and Taylor report that mean high water springs in 2021 was quite a long way away. And so at what point do we decide that mean high water springs is at a point where it's going to have legal effect? And also, where does our council legal boundary of the reserve, if there is such a thing, come into play? I mean, maybe it's just a sort of a technical question, but it is an issue, isn't it, given that the Tonkin and Taylor report in the which has come from the applicants has got mean high water springs well away, but it's 2021. So are we going to require an updated report from them? Dated when?
My understanding is that with the previous applications, a datum was agreed as part of the resource consent process for use for processing that consent, and I guess Leif's still here. Leif may be able to just confirm that would be the case in this one as well.
Because it's always good to have more contributors that provide clarity.
Okay, well, look, we know that mean high water spring moves up and down. A bundle of consents would consent below it and above it. So where the exact line is doesn't actually matter too much from a consenting point of view. The written approval or landowner approval can only be given above mean high water spring as far as the landowner, but the consent can deal with both. And it'll draw a line and we know that it'll go up and down.
Okay, so the way this is worded, I hope this helps. If between 5 minutes from now we approve it and the line moves, because we've approved the bit above mean high water springs, if it moved seaward and the whole thing became above mean high water springs, our approval would just effectively cover the whole thing. If conversely, mean high water springs moves in the other direction, our approval wouldn't. So I just want to ensure that this doesn't trap us into a and someone goes, oh my gosh, it moved a metre, and therefore, so this is broad enough to enable exactly the same consideration as Leif just laid out through the resource consent process, rather than anyone having to come back to revisit this conversation.
Through the chair, that's why we talk about the portion above mean high water springs rather than a specific part of the
Excellent. That is exactly what I thought. So thank you very much for that confirmation. Right. Question happily answered. Splendid. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So thank you for Kim's answer in terms of DOC's responsibility. Do we encourage DOC as our partners about granting permission or consent for this? It's absent, so there is. But anyway, that's good. Can you just scroll up a little bit, Chelsea? Thanks, because I think I saw without my glasses on. I think the amended resolution. I think Abel spelled wrong. Whoever Abel Tasman was it? Keep going. Stop.
You're right.
Yeah, there's.
It's able as it.
Put my glasses on
well,
to double check.
What we're hoping is it does enable and is able. Enable Tasman.
Yeah.
Right. Good spotting though, Councillor Murray. Councillor Greening.
Yeah, I'm probably going to follow a similar line to Councillor Murray. Mean high water, dynamic line, shafts, moves. There's two parties on each side of it, TDC on one, DOC on the other. When we were lining this up and putting this forward, I think it would be useful that we, because I get a sense that the community wants to move reasonably quickly on this. They've got concerns about storms coming, etc. And what I haven't heard is a clarity around what our work has been with DOC. And I know Councillor Murray has tried to hint at that through, have they suggested supporting it? But given we knew this, that they're the operator below high water mean, shouldn't we be working with them and getting them on board with it and lining it up so that we can also present with this report? And by the way, DOC will be either have approved this on their side, subject to our approval, or they will be providing concessionary, they'll be considering it on a specified date. Here's the date. At the moment,
excellent. Good question, Councillor Greening. So I'll try and get you an answer. So the question is, to what extent have DOC been involved in the conversation? Is there any agreement? So we can clarify the position as far as we know of the Department of Conservation. So whether that's Leif or Kim or Richard, I don't really mind.
So just to answer the question to DOC, they have been engaged in all parts of this process, so they're well aware that there's two landowner types of approval required here. They're aware that they can happen in any order. They're aware that the consent process runs across that, so it doesn't need to have a particular line drawn for it. So they're on board, but it is a decision they have yet to come to. But they've indicated that they will, as soon as they receive an application for it, they will process it. So they know the dynamics.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Very clear.
Yeah, and for the benefit of the public, since I've got you there, and you probably know the system far better than I do, what's your expectation on that timeline, just generally, in terms of they submit their application to DOC?
And I don't have too much in terms of the way of timeframes in my mind. I did recall they would take a number of months to process their application once received. That's my memory of it.
Yeah. Okay. Can I just invite council, given we're approving it, and to gently nudge DOC along in their process, because I know these things can get protracted.
I mean, I suspect the applicant may contact the council and suggest that the council may like to write a letter of support for the application for approval. That would be entirely appropriate. So should the applicant wish to engage with the council to encourage the department, I'm sure that can be covered.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So unless the mover wishes any further discussion, which I suspect they don't, given the time frame, Councillor Kinnemont.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Can I just ask to have on the screen number 5 resolution? I think it was the last one that Leith put up. Not written approval.
So we are not being asked.
Okay. Yep.
Right, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for the council staff for the quick turnaround of providing that clarity. So next up, we'll do Paka Wall. Hopefully this will be reasonably straightforward. Richard? Whoa. It's a woe. Yeah.
Heck of woe. This one is quite a similar one, and there has been some amendments to the wording there in a similar way in relation to the clarification on the bond, and also I think there's another one further down in relation to the landowner consent part of it, landowner approval as well. But apart from that, as we've heard this morning already, it's really extension of what has previously been approved for this one.
Thank you, Richard. Councillor Butler.
Thank you. I'm happy to, very pleased to be able to move this. I do have a question about E, though, because the policy actually says may require a bond. The actual policy. So I'm just wondering, what is the basis for us saying that enter into an agreement to provide a bond? Because the policy actually says may require a bond. And there are my understanding is that there is an argument that the other the indemnity, the properties are held an indemnity against anything going wrong anyway. So there is actually quite a lot of protection there already.
Through the chair, I'm looking at the policy now, and it does say that the council will require those landowners to provide a bond or other security arrangements to cover such damage and or claims.
Correct. That is what the policy says. Which is the policy that you supported, which there was a debate about, but it is the policy.
I never supported the bond and the policy.
I'm just saying it's the policy. So the level of the bond could be $0.1 through to some other figure. That is the subject of the conversation, and that depends on a whole range of factors that have to be considered. But that is the policy. That is what the council, in their infinite wisdom, put in.
Yes, I think it's there are other places in the policy where it's not definite, but I accept what you're saying, and I am still happy to move it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anything further, Councillor Hill?
It's been seconded.
No, it has not.
I'm happy to second it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Unless there's any further debate, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. So next up, we will do temporary road closures. Jamie, welcome.
Good morning, councillors. Mr. Mayor, happy to take the report as read. Take any questions.
Councillor Dowler.
Happy to move, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to speak in. Just a couple of quick questions, if I may, Jamie. Just in relation to the Westland Car Club on the Matakitaki Road, there was some frustration expressed about how it was run last year. I just want to clarify, check that they've been made aware of those concerns and will perform better, especially around letting traffic through between events rather than holding them for some time, which frustrates locals and particularly milk tankers and that have a job to do.
Yeah, that was a key issue that kind of flagged in the report. We've had further discussions with the applicant about that matter. They've run this event for a number of years, and every year it's gone pretty well. Last year they they had an issue with their radios. So when they went to set up, it took them a couple of hours to get the radios to work, which is highly unusual. And at the same time, the person who was supposed to do the final notification letter drop, for whatever reason, failed to do so. And so those matters have all been addressed now.
So that they'll do better. So just I support the resolution, and it's a really good event for the community. But the other issue that has been raised is, do they need to close the road from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m? Can that be shortened at all?
We did inquire about that. The logistics get in the way. So even though the actual effect on road users is much, much less than a full closure from 7 till 7, it takes them time to set up the signs and to get everyone in place, which is why they need that time before and after the event, and to give themselves a window if things do go wrong. So that explains the time.
So it sounds like they're going to run it a lot better, which will appease those that were concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bryant. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. In principle, I support this. I just have one question around post the recent weather events and the surfacing on the roads out there. Will the organisers be very aware of extra risk that could be there and the damage that could happen due to our post-weather events and the band-aid work that we've had to do until we can go back and do, full-on road repairing?
Yeah, through the Mayor. Short answer, yes. We've made really good progress, obviously, with many of our roads. We're not anticipating any issues on the roads that are included in this resolution, and we'll still be undertaking the before and after inspections so that any damage caused by the events is covered by the applicants.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. After responses to those questions, I will put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Next up, we've got the amendment to the Tasman District Council Traffic Control Devices Register and Traffic Control Bylaw. Mike.
Yeah, I'm also happy to take the report as read and answer any questions.
Okay, open for question, comments, feedback, moving and or seconding. Councillor Dakey.
Thank you, Through Chair. Question on 5.2 Salisbury Road. We've got some reinstated parking proposed. What was the motivating factor for this? Was it requests from residents, or is it you saw opportunity? Can you just comment on what brought these changes forward?
Through the Mayor, a little bit of both. One of the items of feedback that we got when we first installed that layout was concern about the amount of drop-off parking near the school and loss of opportunity for residents in that area as well. So we did spy an opportunity with the upcoming reseal of that part of the road, the fact that the concrete separator, the separators are no longer in place, and that there is an inset bay there. So it's kind of a perfect opportunity just to provide a little bit extra parking in that high demand area.
Okay, thank you. So are you confident, second question, that the car door zone space there is adequate? There is a buffer still? There is? Good. Okay.
Yeah, it's through the Mayor. Yeah, it is actually quite a nice wide inset area. Yep.
That's good. And the residents will be happy that it's being done in time with other works, so there is no cost in making this change. And on that, I'm happy to move the report.
Thank you very much. So it's been moved. Councillor Dakey is a seconder. I know a number of other speakers. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. Happy to second. I just want to say thanks for bringing this through. Can I just double check? Is there any potential risk with car movements across the cycle lane for that reinstalled parking on Salisbury Road?
Yes, there is. So having the layout is quite a standard layout for parking and cycle lanes, but parking and cycle lanes is a risk, which is So the least risk option is to have no parking on the roads next to cycle lanes, but it is a standard layout that we have and are accepting of.
Okay, so fingers crossed on that issue. And I also want to say thanks to the team. When we brought the issues on behalf of the residents for that Croucher Street, Chisnell Street area, have really appreciated how we've moved on that, and I'm pretty sure the residents are pretty grateful given the conversations that I had with them. So thank you very much, especially for that area.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. So it's been moved and seconded. Councillor Murray.
I think it's just in relation to the comments of the Paul Street one and the Atkins Street one, where we've had interactions with landowners, and the Paul Street one wasn't happy, but we're going to put it there anyway. The Atkins Street one wasn't happy, so we've moved it. We've had some other feedback that may not have supported it holistically, but nobody objected. So I guess I just want to understand the consultation. So we go out with a plan, we let a box drop. The Atkins Street one's moved. Was the consultation done with those landowners when it was at the first site, or was it reconsulted for the second site? I'm just interested. We've moved one for one landowner. We've got some consultation. We don't want it moved from the other landowner. I'm just making sure that the Atkins Street owner had the chance to absolutely understand it had been moved and we'd gone back.
Through the Mayor, so clause 5.5.6 describes it that the proposal that we've brought to you now was fed back to the residents.
Yes,
that's my understanding. Yep.
I guess that's just what I'm seeking confirmation on. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Kittermont, did you have a question?
I do, through you, Mr. Mayor. A quick one. Once again, Salisbury Road. So you've taken out the concrete separators and then removing some of the car parking there. Very similar to Aranui Road and Mapua. Would you consider doing the same sort of adjustments to Aranui Road and Mapua?
Through the Mayor, I think it's about where the realistic opportunities exist. So Salisbury Road, there's an inset parking bay, which is tailor-made for parking, and I guess that's what differentiates it from much of Aranui Road. So I don't think the same opportunity exists.
Thank you. Councillor Dowler.
Can I have a second question?
Oh, yes.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. The second one is clause 5.7.4, the Pyro Road bus shelter. There's already a bus shelter there on very close proximity. It's got broken glass, but if you can relocate the existing bus shelter onto where you're putting the new one, I think the residents, little school kids, would appreciate that. So it's more of a comment as opposed to a question.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dowler.
Yeah, I'll head to Manoy Street on page 233, the pretty picture of the no parking signs at the end of our Rolls-Royce cycleway that we built through there, which is quite pleasing, well used. It's a bit of a band-aid thing there, just putting two no parking signs up, because when the cars park in that area, we have no parking wardens working in the area anyway, because it's when the rugby training's on at night. The parking wardens are finished, and also on the weekends, there's no parking wardens around. So I know it's what I'm about to say seems a bit ridiculous, but I'd rather see a little bit of seal just placed in that corner, just to finish the job properly, and just some yellow hatching lines so it actually looks like it's a no parking zone, instead of just two signs that someone might park in front and say, oh well, I'll leave enough room there so they can get through. I don't know, but it just doesn't seem to be quite enough in my world.
Jamie, through the Mayor, yeah, I mean, what we're proposing at the moment is on a graduated scale of interventions, the cheapest and the one you would try first. And if it proves to be unsuccessful and we need to go further, then we would need to consider that. It would come at a cost, and whether funding's available can be considered down the track.
I suppose all the money was spent on the Queen Victoria Street one. There's nothing left in the pot for that.
It dried up very quickly due to circumstance.
Yeah. It would be hard to miss those signs, wouldn't it? I mean, if you're going to park right in front of those two, you probably, if you didn't see them, you probably shouldn't be driving.
That probably is cyclists.
Righto. Anything further? All right, I'll put the resolution that's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Next up, we've got site for the new Wakefield Community Hub, Martin and Rob.
Through the Mayor, I'm here representing Grant Reburn and Rob Coleman. Just like to take the opportunity to, I'm still getting over the last little bit of information with the seawall stuff, but excuse me. I'll take the report as read. Martin's here to help us with any questions, so please ask away.
Thank you very much. So it's open for questions, comments, moving and seconding. Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you very much through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to move the resolution to receive and acknowledge. I'd just like to say that, in the 6 years that I've been a councillor, this project has been worked on and was envisaged a long time before that. It's probably been in at least 3 iterations of the council's long-term plan. So, I think the community was a bit taken aback when we went out to them with regards an alternative site other than the domain, which had always been envisaged. But actually, it turned out to be a good process. I think we got a huge amount of more engagement from the community, and as a result of that, as we think we know, the Nixon statue got sold from the front of the other property, so that was a positive outcome for the community. And I'd like to acknowledge the great work I think that Martin's done. I mean, bringing this into now the project management arm of the council so that we can follow through and deliver it is fantastic. So I think this is really a great step for the project, and I think the community is really behind it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McKenzie. Deputy Mayor Bryant.
Just endorse the remarks Councillor McKenzie has made, and it really did engage the community, and we've got a really true steer now. So with that, I'm happy to second the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further questions, Councillor Walker?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So when we had public forum this morning, there was 2 lovely ladies that came and spoke. Can I just get an understanding?
About
oh, wrong place. Sorry. I'll hold my question for the right page. I was so keen to ask something.
That's all right. No worries. I will put the resolution. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Tapawera Community Hub location recommendation. John and Martin.
So through the Mayor, obviously, again, another report that we hope can be taken as read. This did come from the discussions around the site locations for the Tapawera Hub. And as a result of some initial due diligence on the original site, other sites were reviewed. And as a result of that and some workshops, again, we added this to the Lakes Murchison Reserves Management Plan. And again, the site 3, which we're putting forward as the preferred site today, was supported by that other document. So I'm happy to take what is read and put it out for any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'll come to Deputy Mayor Bryant first, and I'll definitely come to Councillor Walker for her question on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very pleased to firstly thank John and Martin for the work they've done, and also Tapawera Connect and those involved with the Lakes Murchison Ward Management Plan. Got a very clear steer now from the community about that they're supportive of the hub in this location, and I'm happy to move the resolutions as proposed.
Okay, thank you. Moved.
I'm happy to answer Councillor Walker's question when she praises it.
And I will now come to Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, and thank you, Deputy Mayor, for being able to answer, hopefully, my question. So, the vibrant girls that came and spoke, ladies, this morning, one of them who's been doing some post-flood response work, talked about the playground and how she would like to see the playground updated. And I'm just questioning the scope of the project that we have in front of us. Does that include work on the playground? How do you know, or where is the funding going to come from for the dream that she planted a seed, which I didn't know about till now?
No, she's
today?
talking about it'll be adjacent to the what is called the Tapawera Reserve, which Tony, who's if he's still here, takes responsibility. It's behind where the new hub will be, and it does need a refresh in about how good's memory, 23 or 24. We did get a new 2004. We got a new playground put in that park she's talking about, so it just needs a refresh. But that's totally separate project. She wasn't meaning that as part of the hub project at all.
Thank you for clarifying. I was thinking the scope of this project was getting bigger than
No, not at all. But she did say that she's the fundraiser and we're confident we can raise beyond the amount of money that's required and we'll enable to furnish and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mackenzie, then Councillor Bryant. Councillor Murray.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to second this once again for the Tapawera and outlying community. Great to actually firm up on the site. Took us a long time to get here, but I actually I think this is going to be a great site, and I think it's probably going to be the cheapest site. And so you know, I think it enables the community now to do their fundraising and get the thing built.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to second it because Councillor Mackenzie did. Because I'm just aware that we're seconding the preferred location for the build, and I just I guess on the other side, I encourage staff to start having the conversations about where council's support will be for facilities in Tapawera going forward, because the previous site across the road, I don't know what the plan is from there, but in terms of making it really clear that budgets are tight and there's not money for all the different little buildings in Tapawera, that plan going forward is a new hub. So otherwise we'll build it and then we'll have an outcry from a sector of the community wanting the old site also done up. So I just really mindful that we're talking about preferred site, happy with the resolution, but just mindful about what else down the future.
Deputy Mayor Bryant. Just for clarity, I'll come to John. So in terms of the messaging around should this resolution pass and the preferred site be site 3 as identified on the map, we have made it clear that we don't envisage continuing to provide funding, given the site is not owned, but neither the site nor the building on site 4 is owned by the council. That's correct. There is no expectation and or indication that we would continue to provide funding to that.
We don't provide any funding at present, so it wouldn't.
Okay, all good. Thanks for the clarification. Councillor Greening.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, maybe for the benefit of the public at large and various other people. So this is just confirming the preferred location. I'm just conscious that council, even the mayor, has signalled that at some point this council will have to have a review of its financial commitments. And while this might be the preferred location, this is not a go decision to build. This is just a preferred location. And if we are reviewing our financial position and we consider some of these activities are not high up on the priority list, that there will effectively have to be a pause on some of these projects.
That is my understanding of the resolution as worded. It is to confirm the location, and that is all.
Yes. So through you, Mr. Mayor, obviously the intent to confirm the location is to allow us to continue with the concepting.
Correct.
Yeah.
Based on the decision that was made to include it in a long-term plan, but this resolution in of itself doesn't reinforce, reiterate. It simply confirms the location.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further? If not, I'll
Yeah, no, I don't think.
put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Next up, we have June, July weather events recovery update. Richard.
Thank you, Mayor Tim. Just a couple of changes. I think the updated report was sent to you. There were some figures incorrect in the financial table, mainly around the solid waste. That affects the net cost to council up to 11.2 from what was 10.6. So the report has just been modified to suit that. And I'm going to hand over to Matt to describe the governance aspect of that table. Thanks, Matt.
Right, and I'd also like to clarify that that is an estimate. Some of those figures are yet to be confirmed.
That's correct.
So all we can do at this stage is estimate based on the conversations we're having, indications we may have got, but there are a number of processes and confirmations yet to be sought. We don't want to be too presumptive about receiving funding until we actually have it announced and confirmed.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. Just for that clarification, Matt.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just to explain the second line down on the table, governance, that's actually the Mineral Relief Fund. So essentially we've got $476,000 via private contributions and the government, and we're looking to fully spend that. The other item that's actually not on this table is the contribution of $340,000 from MPI. So again, we haven't actually received the dollars yet. Certainly they've received the invoice, but again, that will be fully allocated shortly. That's the last point I would make is the $10.6 million or the updated figure Richard mentioned. The reality is the majority of that is expected to be incurred this year, but some of it will lapse over into the following financial year as well. We're undertaking a reforecast annual plan process at the moment. So these figures will be considered as we're working through those figures, and they'll come back to the council in December of this year, most likely.
Okay, thank you very much, Matt. Thanks for that clarification. Anything further?
I just want to introduce Riley Peterson, who's Support Recovery Manager, basically running the recovery office at the moment. And so if there's any questions that I don't know, Riley will know.
Yeah, good work, Riley. Welcome. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll see if I can find a question there. I'm actually happy to have the move report on the basis and understanding that estimates and money still flowing in and it's still an unknown, but in terms of the knowledge we have today. So just going to the EOC non-welfare, the 200,000, is that the line where you're expecting to get some lottery funding in from that you've applied for? Is that going to potentially, because you've talked about different streams and different aspects, I'm just wondering if that's where that's flowing.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, the EOC Centre was set up obviously and started spending money essentially. So they, through our partners at Nelson City, who are the administrating council, essentially have a spreadsheet for about $260,000. Of that, $100,000 they expect to get back fully from NEMA. The balance of $160,000 most likely will fall with TDC. That figure is still to be determined. And then, yes, I think the idea is we will approach agencies for funding, but the feeling is it's most likely unlikely that we'll get help in that space, but we'll certainly be exploring it. So if anything, that's presenting the worst case.
And apology if I've missed it, Matt, but what sort of activities in the non-EOC, whatever it's called, the EOC non-welfare expense, what type of activity expenses are those? That's what I was struggling with.
To Richard.
I think it's Riley then.
It could be Riley. It's the welfare one is largely focused around the 3 navigators, but there's a whole lot of other work behind the scenes, not only in-house,
I'm
but
okay with the
externally as
welfare,
well.
it's the non-welfare.
It's the non-welfare, and it's the stuff related to the rivers. We've got external advice coming on the rivers. We've got Riley herself and coordinating the whole team. We've got some from the IT department helping out as well. So it's stuff that, as DIA said, it's not customer facing, that we believe the whole of recovery is community facing. So we're having a bit of a debate around wording with DIA. Yeah, but I hope that answers your question.
And happy to move.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McKenzie and then Councillor Mailing.
Thank you very much through you, Mr. Mayor. So just a couple of questions. In relation to the roading costs, so how have we looked at what our pre-storm roading program was, say, over the next 2 years, and thinking about, well, given that all the damage that we had and the work that we've done, which is part of the 19.3 million, maybe now we don't need to do some of that stuff that we had previously planned to do, so that in effect becomes a saving from current budget. So that's my first question.
Jamie.
So, yeah, thanks through the Mayor. The reality is there aren't any savings on our normal maintenance program from what's happened, and in fact there will over the next few years be upward pressure on our maintenance budgets, because what we see is we get this hit of immediate reactive funding to clean the culverts, clean the drainage. But from past events, we know that material keeps slipping, in each rain event, and NZTA don't give us the additional emergency funding to keep cleaning that up. So that goes back into our maintenance program. So we're back left chasing our tail. So realistically, there is no potential savings from our maintenance program. And in fact, there will be upward pressure over the first, couple of years of the next LTP.
All right. Thank you. Then I was thinking about this table, and I was thinking of a split between OPEX and CAPEX. And so am I to take from this table that OPEX and CAPEX is mixed together, or are you saying it's all OPEX, or where am I left to think in relation to that with this table?
Matt, through you, Mr. Mayor. At the moment, it is both together. The reality is, though, there is some capital. I think it's not much, though, is what I've heard. It tends to be, it's far more just maintenance work that we're doing. And saying that rivers is a bit of an unknown, exactly where that will pan out in terms of the accounting rules. The reality of the funding of it will come from loans, like we didn't provide for it. So initially it's going to come from loan funding regardless of OPEX and CAPEX. The decision that council will be faced when we come back with an annual plan, etc., is how quickly we might want to pay off that this additional cost, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, etc.
Okay. And then in relation to the damage that occurred, and, if we think of the impact on rivers, so previously we had done a huge amount of rock work, etc. So was that rock work, was that capitalised? Did we treat any of that as assets?
Yep. Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, certainly there was, we insure the river's assets. So yes, there was assets that were capitalised over as we've spent more and more over the years on the capital program associated with rivers.
And so how do we, or when is it going to be transparent in relation to all of the assets that we've had to write off, and what is actually the ongoing impact of that in terms of the original depreciation, for example, which we would no longer be having to provide for? So how is all that going to come into play in terms of this big reassessment of the annual plan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll start, and Richard might like to finish. Certainly, depreciation is actually not a big issue. Like, we don't actually depreciate it. We depreciate a tiny bit. I think there's $40,000 worth of depreciation in the rivers areas, so it's very small. I suppose from my perspective, and talking to David Arsenault, we need more information in order to actually determine it. That's one of the things that's a bit of an unknown at the moment. The only thing is we will need to work it through, and it could have big implications. I've heard David talk about it. It's almost a chance to revisit how we do things. So that maybe I speak too much. I'll say no more and pass to Richard.
I'll just add a bit more. We do have a database and an asset valuation for the river works, and that's insured. And we're actually putting a claim in for some of the damage. But what would happen then is if it's completely damaged, that'll be a write-off. But what we put back in will be capitalised again. So there will be a new valuation at the end of with all the new work that we've done. That will be part of ours. And it'll be mainly for insurance purposes. As Matt has said, we probably won't be doing any depreciation on it.
Maybe if I could through you, Mr. Mayor, and then my final question, just so you know that I'm wrapping up.
I was beginning to wonder.
So you mentioned insurance, in particular in relation to rivers. And so, I mean, we've got here a net cost of $5 million for rivers. So how much of that's going to be covered by insurance?
I think you'll find the 15 mil is largely from insurance, and there's some help from the government, I think, coming through too on that, yeah.
Yeah, through to me, it's 60-40 split. So we'll be talking to NEMA and we'll be talking to Aon essentially. But we don't expect to get the 20 million, and hence the 75% is an estimate.
Bearing in mind, these are all at this stage estimates as we work through both insurance and government funding and the range of other conversations. Rob?
Yeah, through the chair, hopefully friendlier this time. So we don't depreciate the rock because we expect it to last a long time. Our first go with insurance is going to be next week, and that will then set our process for how we're doing those claims as we go forward. And David will be talking to the council on the 1st of October. He has a report about rivers and coasts, and a lot of that report will be about the processes in at the moment. And so at the moment, we're actively working on essentially a refresh to the management of rivers and how we're going to manage this. And so we have people working on our asset impairment process right now. So that David will be able to talk extensively about that on the 1st. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a wide range of different situations where rock has been, for whatever reason, or an asset has been impacted, but the river remains in a similar place and hence it may be replaced, versus rock protection, which is now 100 metres out in the middle of a river that's entirely shifted, and you may or may not be considering replacing that asset. It may have a different solution. So there will be a lot of different situations to work through over the extensive river network that's been impacted. Thank you. So Councillor Mailing, and then Councillor Ellis, and then Deputy Mayor Brian.
I'm happy to second, and just note that if you think about this event, and it was the biggest flood since 1877 in the Motueka River, the actually impact on our assets is nowhere near what the impact is on our rural people and their farms. So if you compare the event, you think about what happened in 2022 in Nelson, their cost was 60 million in relation to that, because it hit their populated areas. You know, we had a little bit of problem up at Easby Park, and the new secondary flow path is pretty much done. But this actually hit our rural people rather than our high population areas. And the impact on those farms is going to take so long to replace. And just looking as you drive up Pigeon Valley and you look at the deer farm that I know you've helped them, the Deputy Mayor has helped them with, you know, that one paddock is just devastated. It's just a big pile of logs still there that have come down because there was a slip on the hill. So for our ratepayers that are going to have to pay for this, the impact is not as great as on our rural people whose incomes and other funding, and we have had tremendous government support. So in some ways you would say, were we a bit lucky? I don't think so, but the impact on our ratepayers in the urban areas is nowhere near the same as is in our rural areas. And
I've been involved in groups that have been going out through the fishing club. They've been going out helping people, but it will take years for some of these places to recover. So that's why I'm happy to second it. And central government has really come to help. And I know the Mayor has reiterated that before.
Thank you, Councillor Manning. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. It's mind-boggling, isn't it? I am just wondering, when are we going to have, and I'm not sure if anyone can answer this, and I'm not asking for an answer now, but when are we going, do we have an idea of when we're going to understand what impact this is going to have on our future insurance coverage? Because I would imagine that we would see some increased costs coming through. And so when are we going to have an idea of where that impact's going to sit on our future long-term plan and annual plans?
Who wishes to provide? To the extent that you're able to at this point in time. So Steve at the back.
Yeah.
So
the
Steve.
The very short answer, through you, Mr. Mayor, the very short answer, Councillor, is probably not until renewal time, because that's when the actuaries will then look at the risk and quantify the risk. Obviously, between now and then, there will be a change to our asset base, and there'll be a change to the class of things that we're seeking to insure, so that will come through. But at the moment, there's no indication from the insurers that our current renewal, which we put into effect, will actually we changed insurers and we changed financial year between the first emergency and the second one. That hasn't introduced any additional cost or any additional complexity beyond the obvious. So 12 months from now, before we really know.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks to those for the report. So, and really do appreciate the roading network report that we got from the Downer Alliance throughout the event and continuing right up to date. That's been a really great source of information for being able to communicate with the community. And as others have said, the huge amount of damage, and particularly in the Tapawera and Waiheke areas, both to roading and rivers. So really appreciate the work the contractor has done. Just have firstly a question about the roading contract. The only thing that's really puzzled me is that Fulton Hogan appear to have done the work in Pretty Ridge Valley, where that's really in the Downer Alliance contract. Just wondered how that had happened.
Yeah, through the Mayor. So obviously, as we've said before, we had to scale up and bring in as many contractors, people, skilled people with equipment and the know-how to get things done. And that included immediately after the event, Fulton Hogan. So they reached out to us and said, well, we've got the highway repairs under control. Is there a nearby place where you need our equipment? And Pretty Bridge Valley was a perfect opportunity. So that's how that came about.
And that's been a really, really good result in there for those people in there. Yeah. And as have a number of others, but as you alluded to in response to Councillor McKenzie, there will be an ongoing cost of more maintenance in some of those areas. I think of like the Sunday Creek Bridge and Stanley Brook, huge amount of work gone into that. But now there'll be an expectation the road will be kept to a much higher standard by that community. Just moving on to rivers, and that's 2 or 3 questions about that. Firstly, we haven't had the same level of reporting around that we've had from their line. Is there any opportunity that we will get some sort of report on money spent, what sort of jobs have been done? Because I know Tim and I did comment one day when we were going to Tapawera, some of these boys in the river team are like kids in the sandpit with their toys.
Oh, you might have said that, sure. Yeah. Pretty sure I didn't say that.
Yeah, I'm sure I said that. But yeah, it would be really good. I'm not sure if it's coming to ops or something. Firstly, that question.
Through the Mayor, if it's okay. If you'd like, I could get you so we get a weekly report from our main contractor, and that, you know, I like those big diggers playing in the sandpit too. So that lists where they are and what they're doing. So that's not the financial, but the action side. David will be
That's certainly similar to what we've had from the Alliance around the roading. So, you know, even if we could get an update, we don't expect you to go back every week.
I'll just get that put on the Friday updates if you'd like for council. And as far as the money spent in the broader report, you'll get one in 3 weeks on the 1st of October. But I'm quite happy to get through Riley some more information coming through if that's appropriate, because we are tracking that. That is scary numbers.
Yeah.
The other thing I forgot to say earlier is when it comes to payment for this, remember our rivers don't go on the general rate as much as the targeted rate. So that will trigger some extra work for council to consider in the future as well. But we're happy to report more on that. It is all accountable.
Thank you for that. That would be really appreciated. And then just the question, Richard, around river insurance, which is a little mind-boggling to me. Does that just cover our assets or actual river work, or where is the line around that?
Just around our assets. Just around our assets.
Sorry?
Just around our assets, the ones we have on our inventory.
The likes of, say, Waiheke Bridge at Waiheke, like Trace Valley, we've done work upstream of a NZTA asset.
That's Riverworks. Riverworks because we didn't have anything there previously. It's probably filling in what was eroded away. So that's just Riverworks.
Well and truly.
If it's around the bridge and protecting the bridge and everything, it'll come under the roading budget. But if it's further upstream and not affecting the bridge, then it'll be a river cost.
What sort of length upstream it is? How do we quantify that when it's
kilometres? Sure.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping.
Many kilometres are connected to the bridges.
Yeah, up to Bill Grove,
pretty much.
It's all right for you to say that. We've got to get that one past NZTA.
I realise NZTA will have a very keen interest in how far we extend that, but.
Mr. Mayor, can I just comment on Jamie's comment before about the lack of resilience in our roading network? There's a couple of ones that really concern me. One is the Marahau Hill, that separation point granite. The forests are not there now, but the ground is just so loose. Any rainfall, we're going to have a major job just keeping that clear all the time. So Jamie made that comment, so that's going to be a huge impact on our maintenance. So just wanted to highlight that particular section of road.
Yeah, certainly aware of that, but I also just wanted to highlight that the Taparoa and Waiheke communities particularly really do appreciate the work that's been done on both roading and rivers, and really appreciate the effort the teams on the front line and behind them have put in, and the great work that the navigators are doing. But that's a totally different area, but yeah, very much supportive. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through Mayor. Is there still the TIF Tourism Infrastructure Fund anywhere around? Does that fund exist? The reason I'm asking is it would be really nice if the Maraho community actually was able to tap into that, because, you know, they have been hit really, really hard, and some of our staff are out there, which I really appreciate, supporting us on Monday. And that hill is pretty damn volatile to be falling every time there's any slight weather coming through. It doesn't have to be a big storm. So can we tap into central government for that funding?
Richard.
Perhaps I'll get Jamie to confirm this, but one of the problems with getting extra funding on roading is that NZTA take the view that that's part of the local share or part of their share of it, so their subsidy reduces. So if at the moment we're at 71% on the recovery,
81
or 81, sorry.
81. Oh, you keep saying 71.
Oh, no, it's Grand Valley Road is 71. Sorry, yeah.
That is because Department of Conservation are a contribute potential. So this is
there's a compliment. So 81%. So if we get TIF funding onto the roading, it goes into our obviously NZTA. So NZTA's 81% would drop. So there's not much point getting it.
Oh, well, thanks for clarifying that.
Yes, so there is Department of Conservation potential funding for roads such as Graham Valley, but if you get it, it then offsets NZTA's funding, so it's a bit of a zero-sum game. But not for NZTA, obviously. So again, it's still a conversation you have to have, because we need to demonstrate to NZTA that we're not just running around replacing everything however we like without contemplating or thinking about how much it costs them, because we have to bear in mind that at the end of the day, the taxpayers are consumed.
we just have to make sure that we're always exploring every option, what's put back to what standard, who's paying, being cognizant as much about NZTA's contribution as we obviously are about ratepayers. So
one thing that's in the resolutions in this report is about us helping the local share of DOC. They're getting their 71% from NZTA. The other 29%, they've asked council to fund half of that, which is 14.5%, which works out to be the 100,000 that we've got in the resolution. So we're recommending as staff that we accept that. Now, council could say, right, we don't want to do 100,000, we want to do less. I'll leave that open to you. At this point in time, we have suggested perhaps we go 50-50 on their share, but on the basis that there is some public good, not just DOC good, in reinstating that, because there are a couple of properties up there. So I'll just leave that on the table for you to discuss.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? If not, thank you very much for the report and the update, bearing in mind that these are all estimates. It is really pleasing to see the amount of support that we've received. I think it is also the point that Councillor Maley made. I mean, I've been obviously travelling around listening to, I mean, there is a bit of a perception that this is the cost of this is astronomically enormous. It's not a small figure, but it isn't hundreds of millions of dollars as we've seen in Marlborough. It's not as big as the impact on Nelson. And it's certainly nothing compared to the Cyclone Gabrielle kind of figures. Part of that is because I think I'm correct in saying we lost no bridges. And the cost of bridges would exponentially have increased the cost of this event. The fact we lost approaches to bridges, we lost, in some cases, both approaches to some bridges, but the bridges themselves, some barely, but they did stand up. So I think it is a range of reasons for that. But I think that is probably one of the reasons that this figure is not substantially higher. And also one of the reasons we're able to restore access so rapidly in the scheme of things to so many places, because that restoration of access to the bridges or the approaches is considerably easier, simpler, and still not cheap than replace the bridges themselves. So thanks very much. Steve.
I was just going to add one thing through you, Mr. Mayor. We've talked about funding and we've talked about the fact that these are estimates and we're waiting for information from various sources of funds to offset the costs. One thing that I would say as we've gone through this exercise and a conversation that we've had with NEMA is how difficult it is to navigate the myriad of funding sources that are available to us and the funds that we can apply for. And even when we do, each of those funds is often associated with, well, is it visible to the community? So we talked before about the DIA fund. We're entitled to $500,000 for each event. So that's $1 million worth of funding. So far, we've got 150,000 because that's all that we could prove was facing our community. So there's lots and lots of challenges there in terms of how we get money out of central government for these things. And NEMA have picked that up, and we're looking to establish a protocol for a different approach when we move forward into to the next emergency that us or some other local government authority might face. So getting money out of government, it's great that it's there. They've been really, really supportive. That's fantastic. Sometimes actually extracting it is a hell of a lot harder than we might think.
Yeah, good point. All right, thank you. I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Next up, Richard, seeing as you're in the seat, recommendation from the Regional Landfill Business Unit. Annual report should be reasonably straightforward.
Yes, there's nothing comment. I've got David Stevenson online if there are any questions.
So for moving and or seconding.
Yeah, I'm happy to move.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Walker. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Recommendation from the Regional Landfill Business Unit Class 3 Contaminated Soil Graduated Fee update.
No, there's no update on that other than what they've asked us to approve. It's essentially providing a site for grade 3 with slightly less cost. The advantage with this is that we are providing an outlet for some of this material rather than it being distributed all over the place, and we do get some income from it that we otherwise wouldn't have got.
Okay, thank you. Again, is there a mover and or seconder?
I'm happy. to move, Mr Mayor. There was some discussion at that business unit about volume against price, but where we landed, committee members were happy with it at the end. So it'll be a useful facility for contractors in the district. So happy to move.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Mackenzie. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Recommendation from the draft business plan. Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Netim. This again is a business plan that comes through, and part of the discussion will be rolling that into the next annual plan. And depending on the outcomes of that, we'll be reporting back to the business unit, if it exists after the new triennium. Whatever entities looking after the unit will be reporting back. One of the things we're having a bit of a debate at officer level at the moment is really quizzing the some of the funding and the operational and capex aspects of that business plan, and putting and I know Nelson's doing the same thing, just putting a blowtorch over it to make sure that if we can delay things, we can. But current fiscal situation, but the reporting back will be probably the middle of or March, April next year, once we've been through the initial stage, the draft annual plan. So I'll leave it at that at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Someone happy to move that resolution? Move Councillor Mailing, seconded Deputy Mayor Bryant. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. And we'll do Chief Executive Officer update, and then we can break for lunch.
Now, I'm not normally due to do a Chief Executive report for this meeting because it was an out of schedule meeting. It was going to be on the 25th, but I'm going on leave tomorrow for 3 weeks, so I'll miss the final meeting of this training. So I wanted to, first of all, while I'm away, Steve Manners will be in the acting CEO role, and he's obviously done that before, so I'm sure he will look after you well. I want to take the opportunity to acknowledge the elected members. I've been to the Motueka Community Board meeting. I've also been to the Golden Bay one. And thank the committees as well. So I just wanted to say thank you. It takes a lot of time and energy and commitment to be on council, and I don't think that's always necessarily appreciated. It's really, you come in and you've got so many competing priorities, and the environment is complex. Today, just the complexity around the seawall. These are decisions that we will be living with for a long time. So regardless of the treatable process this morning, it is complex, and we need to get everyone across that. And I know that sometimes you're having to struggle with sort of, what's what in terms of the technical details. And also, you're really great to work with. Your debates are really measured. You've got, I can see the real passion, good understanding of what's ahead of you, what's before you. So huge appreciation for all the work that you've done, and obviously to Tim's leadership. For those who aren't standing again, thank you. I hope you've enjoyed your time on council, and I can assure you can see the difference that you've made. And for those restanding, I wish you all the very best, and see you in the next triennium. So just moving on in my report, the other one I wanted to raise, obviously there's some pretty standard stuff in here, but I have completed the organisational change proposal, and just a bit of an update for you. So the final decision, I did make some changes. I had 7 drop-in sessions with staff. That was all online. I had over 70 to 100 people on those sessions, answering questions around it. So spent quite a bit of time listening to feedback as well. There were 108 submissions, which is quite a phenomenal amount. Some were from teams and some were from individuals. I put it out to the whole organisation, even though there's a lot of people that weren't affected. It was good to get some views from right across the organisation. And I've got some things to tuck away for later in terms of where do I sit, etc. So I feel like I've consulted really well. The end result is that the executive team structure that I went out with is confirmed as the new structure. And that would mean that the environmental assurance team and the environmental science team were coming together as one group. which meant that Rob and Kim's roles were disestablished. So Kim has taken this opportunity to reflect on what he wants to do and whether he wants to continue on in that new bigger group or to take on other opportunities. So I just wanted to thank him. He's in the gallery today for your passion, your integrity. You know the area really well. You go right across a very complex regulatory environment, and you certainly have seen where you've been. We can certainly see the improvements that you make. So I generally want to say thank you. You have made a significant difference, and I'm sure whatever you do next, whatever organisation you join or become part of, some other activity, that they will certainly value your experience. So thank you very much for your time. Which means that Rob, who's also over there, is now going to be our new Environmental Services Manager. A big job he's taking on, but look, I'm confident that he'll be able to lead that. Rob has been with us for 25 years, I think. Is that correct? Just about. And so he's got a huge breadth of knowledge. And so he has also acted for Dennis Bush King in the past, which did have the science and the regulatory functions together. The other role I have confirmed is a Group Manager, Strategy and Finance. So I'm in the market. You might have seen an advert out there in the market. So I've gone to an external campaign for that because you want to go nationwide and see to test the market. That's quite also a significant role. Other than that, there were some few changes. I did make about 8 different changes to what was originally proposed. But that was based upon the feed that I got. So there was a lot of people said, well, that doesn't make sense to me. And, when I looked at the feedback, I thought, no, that doesn't make sense. So there's some things that I did change. But the overall, the net result is that the cost is the same, but we have added a couple of roles to work on our strategy, to work on where we go to next. Because I always felt that if we don't invest in some of those strategic roles, particularly in the finance space, we will remain stuck where we are, and we won't be able to progress because everyone's so busy with BAU they haven't got the time to look into the future. So I have put a couple of roles in there. One of them is John, who's now the new Group Manager, Customer and Community, and one of those roles is a Customer Experience Lead, to work on our external engagement, to work on our customer experience, to have a look at how we correspond with people, etc. I think that's got huge value based upon the feedback we had in the customer survey. That's probably one of the key changes that I've made. So yes, it's going to be in place by November, end of November. It will take time. We've got to change a few things in the back office. Who signs off leave? It's quite detailed stuff. So it will be a slow transition into the new structure. But by the new triennium starts, we will have a new executive team. Maybe not all the roles filled, but certainly we'll have the structure in place. So I just want to thank the staff who have been fantastic through this process, really professional, have really provided really good insight and feedback. And as I say, I've got quite a few things tucked away of, they took the opportunity to say, well, certain things we could do better. So any questions? I'm happy to take those now.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. It's not a question really, but I would just like to acknowledge, following on from what you've said, I'd like to acknowledge Kim and his contribution to Golden Bay, because he's worked with the community board, and that's been a really positive thing for quite some time. And also his particular knowledge about the environment and the marine environment has been a benefit to Golden Bay. So yeah, this is, I'd just like to say thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Is there anything further? Councillor Murray, then Councillor Dakey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just firstly, just want to check with Leo so that the organisation and change has been done within the budget that was set in the LTP. I take it so.
No, the annual plan.
Oh, sorry, the annual plan. Yes. So and then I guess that, as you well know, any changes disrupting the staff. So I guess you'll have a settling in period and a refocus. And to Kim, we always had honest and frank conversations, and I absolutely respect you for. I knew I'd get the same answer whether I was a councillor, a ratepayer, or somebody on the other end of enforcement. So I absolutely give you the respect for that. So thank you.
Councillor Dakey.
Thank you. Could you just confirm, you said the rest of the way you worded it, the costs would be the same. You mean the costs would be the amount set in the annual plan, so which is actually lower than the previous. It's actually a reduction. I just want to clarify, it's not the same, it's actually a reduction, just the way you said it. Is that right?
That's right. So what we said in the annual plan was for a $1.4 million saving. And I can confirm we are on target for that now. So what I was trying to say is that even though there's some couple of new roles with the savings that's been made, I'm able to reinvest.
Thank you for that clarification. I think it's important that part of this process is that $1.4 million saving, and painful as it is, it is required. So thank you for going through that role. And I thank him for his excellence as well. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. So I'll just wrap this. Oh, Councillor Greening.
Councillor Doug has already answered one of my questions, so thank you for that. Can a copy of the organisational that you've
structure
that you've landed on, because we got a draft version, it would be interesting to see where you actually landed.
Yes, certainly, and I've got a decision document with that actually, which just talks about the rationale, so that might be helpful for you as well.
Yep, that'd be good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, so thank you very much. So I'd just like to reiterate, firstly, to Kim, thank you for the time that you've spent. It is like this area of council has always been a significantly challenging area to manage. It covers a massive range of activity. It has the double-edged sword and joy of compliance, monitoring, and enforcement. Which I guess we all understand is one of the most difficult roles to perform in councils, because it puts you right in the middle of debates between ratepayers. And we often hear that we're here to represent the people or the ratepayers. When it comes to compliance, monitoring, and enforcement, you often find yourself between two ratepayers with distinctly different views about what they would like the organisation to deliver. So it is an incredibly challenging role to oversee, and like the comments that were made previously, Kim has brought to that a vast background and knowledge in that space, and I think significantly shifted our approach to that in a positive way. So thank you very much. I have no doubt we will probably run across you again in some role or another, in some relation, given our ongoing role and your areas of expertise. So best of luck with your future. And to Rob, I mean, congratulations on stepping into the space, which, as I've just outlined, is one of the most challenging in council, given that it does have to traverse those vastly different opinions. And it's important that we do it as well as we possibly can. And I genuinely believe the role that Leonie mentioned about the customer engagement that can oversee across both that role and other roles where we interact with the community, because it is quite noticeable, and having gone around the election meetings, that focus on how we correspond and how we interact and how we, whether it's a verbal conversation or a written conversation or a letter, when we're trying to meet our statutory obligations and requirements and dot every I and cross every T and leave no ambiguity, can sometimes come across as being somewhat overbearing. So again, it's just one of these challenges we have, and so best of luck with continuing that journey that Kim started. So congratulations and commiserations to both of you. Thank you very much. We'll now break. We'll come back. Do you want to go into committee before? Okay, so can someone move? We go into committee. Move Councillor Dowler. Oh, sorry. Move the acceptance of Leonie's report. Councillor Dowler, Councillor McKenzie. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Move we go into committee. Deputy Mayor Bryant and Councillor Mailing. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. And so when we return at 5 minutes past 1,